So we had a pet get very, very ill, and I described, I don't remember what you tweeted. Did you tweet?
I didn't say anything.
You didn't say anything specific. So I mentioned that we had a veterinary emergency on our hands. Things did not go well, and we ended up in the very painful position of having to euthanize a beloved pet.
It was Moxie. It was one of our kitties.
One of our kitties who you've seen here on the set. And that is, of course, a very jarring experience for the whole family.
Including the other animals.
Jarring to the other animals as well. And, it's going to be a little while before we even feel back to a normal state of mind, even though there's obviously plenty of normalcy even now in every day.
It's jarring. I mean, everyone who's had pets and lost them knows how awful it is. But to those who don't, they may think, well, it's an animal. What's the big deal? And one of the reasons to have a pet is because you do share love. But another thing that makes it so impactful is that this is someone with whom you live every day, right? And so you miss an animal who you've been living with and interacting with, on an hourly basis, especially after a year and a half of hardly going anywhere, very acutely. There's just no forgetting the fact that she's gone when you're at home. Right.
And in this case, this is an animal we got as part of a pair, and
the other
Fairfax here is running around, has been with his companion. They were in a cage together for many months before we even adopted them, and so incredibly tightly bonded. And so anyway, it's been painful to watch him go through it. But I wanted to say a couple things. One, I don't really expect other people to care about the loss of a pet. I do expect them to understand the impact that it has on people they pay attention to. And one of the things that really caught me off guard was the viciousness that I saw in certain places online when I said that we had a veterinary emergency. There was disbelief that that was a true story. There was speculation about whether or not one or both of us had contracted COVID and might be hiding it with such a story. And I must say, this is such a bleak indicator about where we are. The idea that people could have lost touch with their humanity to the level that they would engage in such speculation, even if they privately worried about it. To say such a thing is, I don't know, I find it vile. So I would ask you, if the people watching this podcast are unlikely to be in that frame of mind, but I do wonder about the generalized loss of humanity that is being induced by the ways in which we interact online. And I hope people, all of us, will take a step back and ask ourselves if something about that environment is causing us to lose touch with our most important capacities. Maybe that's all that needs to be said here. But
yeah. I mean, it's the more general thing has been said many, many times before, but people interact online in ways that very few people would in person. And one of the ways to try to return to our better angels, I think, is to ask yourself before you engage, if this person were sitting right here in front of you, would you say this thing?
That's true. And we have a number of dedicated detractors, right? Mm-hmm. People who reliably come after us. I must say, I was looking into one of them weeks ago, like long before this issue had cropped up. And I noticed that this detractor, who I really dislike, I find his critiques of us dishonest. But anyway, I did notice that on his social media, he described the loss of a pet that had been with him for many, many years. And it did remind me that as much as I don't like the way this person fights, that this was a human being, right? Now, I would like to think I don't attack people that way ever, but it did cause me to remember that even this person who I find dismaying in their mode of interaction has another side to their life that I can relate to.
Yeah.
I am struck by the fact that pets very definitely arose in human cultures multiple times for reasons that were practical at first. And we may not even know all of the reasons. We know basically that cats arrived pretty late, and that they did so because the accumulation of grain obviously produced a problem with rodents. And so, the sort of interesting semi-wild creature that we now bring into our homes was, semi-wild for a reason. It needed to do its wild rodent hunting thing near the grain stores, and it's lovely that it gets along with people and doesn't attack human children and, all the things that you would want.
It's helpful that they're diminutive.
Right, but there's a reason that herding cats is the problem that it is, which is their initial utility didn't have anything to do with them listening to directions. It had to do with them following their instincts over with the mice that were eating the grain. And with dogs, we have a very different, much more ancient story where this was a hunting partner. And the basic point is, this is a collaborative hunting species, wolf, right, which is actually an excellent hunting companion. And, yes, there's some story to be told about how wild wolves probably enjoyed greater and greater proximity to people and how they actually established a relationship. And no doubt there was some situation where, a mother wolf was lost and the puppies were just so adorable. And it happened that by hand raising them, all sorts of problems were solved. But whatever.
Interesting that both of these main stories of our domesticates are about food, actually.
Right.
About hunting and about agriculture in the case of dogs and cats, respectively.
Right. And actually, dogs is the outlier here. As much as it feels like cats is the outlier.
Of two?
Well, dogs are the outlier of all domesticates.
Okay.
Because it's the one that isn't fundamentally about farming. Right. I think it is fair to say that all of the other major ones. Now, there are cases where hunter-gatherers,
like parrots,
for example, right.
It's not clear what that's about.
Right. And it's an interesting question. But of all of the,
I guess it feels to me like by and large we have two kinds of companion animals, and so there's animals that are about animal husbandry and we're basically breeding them for their meat or their wool or their leather,
pull a plow,
they're work animals with whom yes we may come to become fond of, but they don't. It's not the same kind of relationship. Although, I guess horses people do end up having that very close relationship with horses as well. Yep. So, okay, I'll accept your, my somewhat snarky and outlier and out of two. That's not a thing. But no, I see your point. The dogs, we know that dogs were domesticated multiple times. Far more many years in the past than any of the other animals.
Much more like 30,000 years rather than all of the rest of domesticates, which are like less than 10 because of their relationship to farming in one way or another. Yeah. But the punchline of this story, I think, is in the case of cats especially, they are now completely free. Their reason for associating with us now has precious little to do with mice. And in fact,
they can bring mice into the house.
They can bring mice into the house that couldn't find their way in otherwise.
Yes, and shrew balls and the occasional vole.
Right. Yeah. But, as we become socially disjointed and we lose the connection to all of the people that a normal human existence would have us in contact with, and then we tenuously explore ways of being connected with people over the internet that actually are simultaneously not satisfying because they aren't like the original thing and are getting better than they were, right? It is possible to have a real bond with somebody over, Zoom calls or whatever, right? To develop a real friendship. But, pets have taken on an almost perfectly social utility to us that, you establish. To me, what this feels like is really unusual asymmetrical friendships, right? Mm-hmm. These really are deep emotional connections, but what we get out of the animals isn't the same thing that what they get out of us, except at some very, thin edge, right? We get emotional sustenance from each other. That's pretty clear. But the fact is, having been removed from their initial utility to us is a little bit analogous to food having become, much more about the breaking bread and much less about the providing enough calories to get you through the, the next 48 hours.
Okay. This is a proposal for a variant of fuck, marry, kill, which is a framing for what you might do with a person that you encounter who's a stranger, I think.
What?
I believe. Okay. So,
It's like a game show or something. Or I don't know exactly, but it's something like that.
So
is that a choice or a sequence?
No, it's a choice. It's not a sequence.
Okay.
So the proposed alternative.
I'm terrible at this, apparently.
Yes, you are. The alternative that Hippopotamus Rex here proposes is eat, fight, keep as pet. And the category, the representatives of each category that Hippopotamus Rex proposes for eat, fight, keep as pet are longhorn sheep, kangaroo, and ostrich. Now, do people keep ostriches as pets?
I know they're not good to eat.
They're eggs, though.
Yeah.
I mean, and wasn't there's some, no, it was an emu war. It wasn't an ostrich war. It was an emu war back a while ago. I don't know about people keeping ostriches as pets. I've never heard
I think they
this.
make poor pets. It was eat, keep as pet, or
Eat,
fight.
keep as pet.
The problem
so
is,
kangaroo is the.
I don't think
fight.
fighting one is such a good idea
No,
either.
fight is the kangaroo. Eat, fight, keep as pet. Longhorn sheep, kangaroo, ostrich.
No, you have to choose.
You have to choose in each case.
Choose whether you would eat, fight, or keep a pet for each of those three.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I sort of thought, okay. I don't see a pet option here then.
I mean, I could go for a tree kangaroo as a pet. That could be all right.
A wallaby.
I believe a tree kangaroo is a true kangaroo.
Well, I can't remember. I thought kangaroos and wallabies was a clade.
Macropods is going to be the clade.
But
And the
kangaroos
question
are
is,
actually monophyletic. They're separate.
boy, am I out of my depth here. I don't know. I should know. I could probably end up with a bunch of demerits as a mammologist for not knowing whether kangaroos is monophyletic or
I don't know.
I don't know.
Okay. We're moving on.
That didn't go well, did it?
No, it was fine.
All right.